Well, I think it's an honor to be here, and I'm always excited about talking to parents because you've got the hardest job, and you send us your precious people, and so I think I just honor parents so much. Miss Langston sent me this list of questions. Any one of these I could do a whole night workshop on. And she says, well, you have about 30 minutes. Okay. I want to start out by giving a little background information. Some of this you probably already know, either if you've attended parent education or you've read on Montessori, but it's always good to kind of refresh ourselves because it'll serve as a basis in terms of how I'm answering these questions. And that has to do with Montessori's view of how children develop. She said, well, really, we're talking about birth to 24 years of life. It's after 24 that we really are adults, and are settled in our adulthood. I'm sure that when we're 21 and 22, we don't feel that way, but that's what she said. And she said, and now if you take that and observe it, you could divide that into 6-year periods, from birth to 6 to 12, 12 to 18, 18 to 14. Well, we're most interested in 0 to 12. And more specifically, 3-year-olds, because that's when they start at school, up through 12-year-olds. So that's what I'm going to focus a little bit on tonight. And she called that those first years from birth to 6, she called that the first plane of development, first phase or stage. And I want to highlight a couple characteristics of those children, because what I say has to be aimed at those characteristics, because that's how we help children. And the other thing to remember is that children develop themselves. We don't develop the children. Yeah, we do all sorts of things to model, to help them along, but we don't develop them. And my favorite way of illustrating this is to talk about an analogy. If you think about food, something we all think about a lot, here we are all eating together to start out. If you take a bowl of oatmeal, cook it up, bring it to your child, and eat it, and then say, oh, there you are, wasn't that good? Is your child nourished? No. If you show your child how to do something, and then do it for them, they're not nourished either. So, if you always zip your child's jacket, if you always tie your child's shoes as they get older, if you always guide your child everywhere when they're elementary, it's the same as eating their oatmeal. So you got to let them do it themselves. That's very important. And never forget that. Now, there's some things we have to do for them because they're little. But the more they can do, the better. So, young children, birth through 6, I was starting to talk about them. Montessori said and observed and found out they have what she called the absorbent mind. That's a mind that looks, hears, feels, tastes, touch, and remembers, unlike our adult minds. Okay? She said their mind is like a camera. It takes a picture, and everything is there. Our adult minds are like a painter. We paint, and we make some things fuzzy, and we leave some things out. We don't like them in the picture, so we forget about them. That's our minds. And then we also tend to forget things sometimes, too. Different than children. Okay, so you got to remember that, because those young children are taking in the whole world, everything there is. Remember what they're like when they're born. They know nothing, and they can do very little. They can cry, they can eat, and they can take care of those diapers for you, right? And that's about it. But they have to learn everything, and they do it by that mind that takes the pictures all the time. The other thing to know about those young children, and we're still talking right up through 6 years old, is they learn through their senses. They have to touch, they have to taste, they have to see, they have to hear. And so, that's how they explore the world. So when they go into those Children's House classrooms, when they go into your home, they're touching things. That's soft. Oh, that's smooth. And that's how they're learning. So if we tell them they can't touch, it takes away some of their learning. Now there's some things you don't want them to touch, but most things in your home at those early ages should be able to be touched. Okay, so that's important to remember about those young children. And the other thing is they want facts. They are learning about reality. So they want reality. They need reality. Montessori often gets a bad rap because we say we don't want young children being given a lot of fantasy. Not that we don't want them to use their imaginations for pretend play and things like that. But, you know, if you tell a 3-year-old there's a dragon in your closet, they believe that. That's reality. You said it. And then you're going to deal with that dragon in their closet for a long time to come when they have nightmares at night. So that's why we encourage facts for the young children. Reality. Okay? Now, after 6, they can distinguish between reality and fantasy very easily. So you can tell them there's a dragon in their closet, and they may, you know, play along with you, and they may not. You know, but they would enjoy that. The other thing to remember about those young children is they are constructing themselves individually, and they can only be concerned about themselves. Anybody with a 2-year-old learns that fast, right? Me, you know. You saw a little bit of it tonight. It's about myself. You know, it's not selfish. That is what they're doing. It's so important for them to do that because they have to construct themselves first. And then the other thing is they need order. They need the things to be in order. Okay? Now, that's the young child. Around 6, and yes, it is the teacher's fault, so all you elementary teachers just fess up. The child changes, right? They get into that elementary classroom, they change. They're no longer neat and orderly. They're no longer sweet and polite. They may come to you for a hug, or they may walk by you like you never existed. I'm with my friends, right? Because their stage of development has changed. It's really not the elementary teacher's fault. It's the fact that your child's growing up and things have shifted. That wonderful absorbent mind, gone. It is gone. Never to come back. But now what's come to the front is the ability and the drive to use a reasoning mind. A mind that we hopefully will have the rest of our lives. That hopefully we're all using as adults. And it wants to know why. It wants to know what causes things. It wants you to explain things. You know, so that's what they're driven by. It's not just that they're questioning you all the time. But when you say you have to do this and they say why, that's not necessarily defiance. Well, sometimes it is. But they really want to know why. Why are you making this limit? Because that's where they're at developmentally. Now the other thing, remember I said the young child explores by the senses? This child still uses the senses, but now they also explore by the imagination. They can imagine those dinosaurs, which no longer exist. They can imagine the stars that none of us have been to. They can imagine a rainforest, even if they've never been there. That's how they explore. So now they need a broader avenue to explore. Just the classroom's no longer enough. They want to be out and about. They want to be reading books, seeing videos, and exploring those places they can't go yet, or maybe never can. I mentioned that they probably will walk by you sometime in their lives, very soon after they turn 6, and act like you don't exist because they're with their friends.